Episode 60, episode 60. It's episode 60 of Talking with Tasha. That's a cause for celebration, hence the celebration. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for 60 episodes. I hope you stick around for 60 more and 60 more after that and 60 more after that. This episode, very similar to the last episode in the fact that I am doing it in conjunction with Local Lou. In my last episode, we talked about the Women's Alliance, and in this episode, it's going to be the first part of a two-parter. We talk about Vanished in Vermillion. It is the book that has been chosen for One Book Siouxland here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it is the story of a real-life event that happened in Vermillion, South Dakota. Two girls, Pam Jackson and Sherry Miller, went missing in 1971. And this book is about what happened, what should have happened, what didn't happen, and all the events afterwards, basically. There's a lot to this story, and I just real quick want everyone to keep in mind that most of our conversation is just us speculating, trying to fill in some of the gaps. Sometimes we're playing devil's advocate to try to just think of every scenario. And in this entire discussion, we're really trying not to lose sight of the fact that two teenage girls did lose their lives. Pam Jackson and Sherry Miller deserve to be remembered. And I just wanted to say all that here in the beginning. I know it's a real life story and a lot of the people involved, some of which are still alive. We're basically just trying to break down what happened and why, or why certain things didn't happen. And I know hindsight's 2020, but neither one of us have ever done a police investigation. But we're still gonna, talk a little bit about what we think should have happened, where they went wrong, that sort of stuff. I just wanted to make it very clear that we did not lose sight of that. We do know that this is a real story, real people, and we are fully aware of that. With all that being said, usually at the beginning of an episode, I do a little rundown of things I'm watching and liking, but because this is a pretty big episode, it's a two-parter, all leading up to a author talk that I will be moderating with Lou Ragoose, who wrote Vanished in Vermillion. It is happening on April 24th because Vanished in Vermillion was picked as the One Book Siouxland book. And all of April, there's a bunch of events going on about this book. But on April 24th, I will be moderating the author talk. Lou Ragoose will be there. He'll give a brief presentation. He'll answer some questions. We'll have a little chat. And you're invited. It is free, but seats are limited, so you need to register. So check out the Siouxland Library website for all that information. I've also posted about it. There's links and stuff on my social media, so go check that out. So without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Local Lou about Vanished in Vermillion.
I kind of roughed out a timeline of events for this. I think this is a great book to read, and you were saying that you did the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I did.
You can go listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened on Audible, and then I also read it as well. But I mean, it's the same. It's the same either way. Yeah. It's not, but it is my reading comprehension. Sometimes it's hit and miss. So especially for something I was going to do more of an in-depth thing on and do some research on, I just needed it from both ways, from my eyes and my ears. And then timeline wise, the author does skip around and tells like different strands of the story at different times. So again, this timeline is just something I pieced together. I don't think this is like a be all end all. I really gloss over some stuff, but I just put in basically talking points. So obviously this is a book about some people that vanished in Vermillion. And it's actually about Sherry Miller, who is 17 years old, and Pam Jackson, who was also 17 years old. And so the first thing we get to do in this book is get to know the girls a little bit. And honestly, I kind of wish that was, I don't know, I could have been like happy if that was like the first third of the book is just getting to know the girls.
Yeah, I think now that you kind of say that, there's so much time between when they vanish and where the book kind of ends that I get there's a lot to get to, but like with a lot of true crime stories, I think sometimes the victims or their names do get lost sometimes. Yeah, it's kind of wild. It reminded me a lot of Making a Murderer. How
yeah,
you know, what's his face? I'm blanking on his name.
I know what you're talking about,
yes.
but yes.
He obviously, that documentary was about him. I'm not remembering either of their names now, but I can't remember the victim's name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think her family feels kind of that way too. Like Stephen Avery, that's his name.
You got it.
It reminded me a lot of similarities to that story.
Mm-hmm.
That story still doesn't really have a conclusive end. We still don't really. This one does, I think.
This one does. I mean, I don't like how it ended. I'm just saying I like that this has a real... It is a solved cold case.
Yes.
And that is what this book goes into. So we start with Sherry Miller, who had a really awful childhood, a very difficult family life, but she seemed to be a happy teenager. It seemed like she had found some peace living with her grandparents. She had an after-school job at the Dakota Hospital. There is a cute is such a wrong word. There's an anecdote in the book that talks about how kissing a boy, she thought she could get pregnant from that.
Oh, yeah.
And
I kind of forgot about that because it's so far so much happens after this part. But yeah.
It just tells you a lot about this girl, I think, and just a naive, very young kid that is just being a kid. And then Pam Jackson, she was super active in 4-H. They tell a story in the book where her and her friends skip school and they go to Sioux City. And they go into this really cool building that is also a school. What? So they skip school to go to school.
The Central High, the castle on the hill in Sioux City, because I'm from there, is a really cool looking building though.
Oh, I love it. It's just
I have an aunt that actually graduated from Central High before it wasn't a school anymore. So yeah.
What is it now? Is it like apartments or?
Mm-hmm. I think they made them all into like kind of not low income housing, but what's that like?
Oh, like reasonable
economic housing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, where you just have to meet a pay grade or something.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah. So Pam kind of has strict parents, but it sounds like she has a really close relationship with them. And she actually also works at the Dakota Hospital. So there's a couple of other classmates of Sherry and Pam that work there too. And another piece of the story for Pam is that she had recently had mono and was in the hospital, and it was like a big deal. And so she was still taking medicine for her mono. And so I think that is kind of just the gist of what we get to know about these girls. There's, some other little details like Pam was sewing a skirt that she was going to wear at graduation in a couple days, or at their graduation ceremony for friends in a couple days. Mm-hmm. And, this is a small, Vermillion is a small town, and it's a big farming community. That's kind of about it. That's where this story starts.
And the graduation thing is kind of the whole reason all of that happens is because of the party, it's the big senior party kind of thing, so that's kind of, it's all
part of it.
It's all part of it. Yeah, for sure.
So May 29th, 1971 is when this mystery sort of begins. Sherry's grandma is actually in the hospital. She's in that Dakota hospital that Sherry works at. And Sherry works in the housekeeping department there. Like I said, Pam works there too, but she works in more like the kitchen where they're, one of those aides that like delivers food. And Sherry's grandma is in the hospital, and since Sherry works there, she's able to visit her grandma a couple times a day, which makes her feel good. You can understand, like, coming from this broken home and living with her grandparents, it's obviously going to be so comforting for her to be able to see her grandma that is recovering in the hospital. Sherry works the morning shift, and she lays her paycheck on the counter at home. Sherry also gets a delivery of a $70 bike that day, or it was sitting there, one of the two, but it was still in the box. And she was going to go and hang out with her cousin Pam that evening. Not Pam Jackson. This is her cousin Pam.
A different Pam.
Yep, which let's make it complicated, please. Right. So cousin Pam, when they're together, Sherry and Pam, cousin Pam gets a phone call for a last minute babysitting job. And so Sherry has to now find somebody else to hang out with because the whole plan for tonight is going to a party. Dun dun dun.
A party with alcohol.
Boys. Oh gosh, it's so true. Yeah. And these are good kids. It sounds like they don't really go to these parties, and so, you know,
I can relate. I was that kid that was like the one time I went to a party, I was like, guys, we're going to the cool kid party. I was like,
I love that for them though. They're probably so excited. So this is how Pam Jackson gets invited to go out, is because cousin Pam can't go anymore. Sherry kind of casts a net out there, asks a couple other people, but Pam Jackson is the one that ends up being able to go. And the initial plan is they're just going to go driving, but that's kind of just what they're telling their parents. Grandparents in Sherry's case, but yeah, they're just gonna go driving. So Sherry borrows her grandpa's 1960 Studebaker Lark, and they are really going to try to go to this party. And Sherry even tells her little sister that she's going roller skating. So there's a lot of little teenage white lies going on here, but nothing nefarious, nothing.
You know what I also think is interesting from the 70s to when I was in high school, which was 2000s. If you're in a small town, nothing changes that much because we also drove around as something to do. You know what I mean? It's all the same kind of stuff that you do in high school, especially when you're, you know, kind of a smaller town kid. There's not much to choose from. So although now driving around is going to cost you a lot more. So
a lot more. Yeah. But man, that freedom was something else though. Like when you're a teenager driving around with your friend, like laughing, talking, listening to music. Like if you could bottle that, priceless.
Cruising the loop. We went on Morningside Ave. That was the Ave. Was the.
So what's interesting about that is, so the loop was, for people that might not be from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, was these streets, these like one-way streets that looped around. And in Vermillion, I suppose, they also had what they referred to as the loop, because that's where the girls go cruising. So at 8 p.m., Sherry picks up Pam in this tan Studebaker Lark, and they are cruising the loop, expecting another friend, Debbie, to join them, but Debbie goes to a different party instead. So it ends up being just Sherry and Pam. Several friends see the girls cruising the loop, and I wonder if this popped out to you in the book. They talk about they're still trying to get other people to go with them. And they talk about going by this bar and asking two of their coworkers from the housekeeping department to go with them. Oh, did that pop out to you?
I assumed they were also teenagers, but I guess they're at the bar. So
they're at the bar, which means they're at least 18, but...
Yeah, because at the time it was 18 you could drink,
I think
right?
so. Because this is 1971, I'm pretty sure. But it was...
I guess, I don't know. Like, I worked part-time jobs where, I mean, it only happened once or twice when I was in high school that I went and hung out with people that were, like, in their 20s. But it was more like everybody from work went to dinner or something. So, like...
Sure.
I didn't invite him to a high school party, but I don't know.
That's what I thought was funny. I'm like, even if they're just a year or two older, like, it's so weird to invite them. Like, do you want to go hang out with children?
But in a small town, like, even after I graduated, I went back. Well, my brother was in high school after I graduated, but especially those first couple years when it was still people that I was, like, in high school with, I went back to the band concerts and stuff. I was just a band geek too. But yeah, but also my brother was there, but I knew the people as well. So, you know, in a small town, sometimes you do just go back for certain things, but
yeah,
I don't know. So yes and no, it's kind of weird, but I'd like to know exactly how old the coworkers were.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's a good point. Because if they were in their 20s, it would make it just so much funnier to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be asking like a 25-year-old, do you want to go to a party with me? It's, no.
Yeah.
Thanks, though, kids. See you on
Yeah.
Monday. So the girls end up going to Dakota Hospital to check on Sherry's grandma, and they stay there until 9:30. I think this is adorable.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sweet.
I do too, especially for, a weekend. And it sounds like she was probably already saw her grandma that day, but to still go back is kind of cute,
It's just so, it just says so much about these kids, I think, especially because then Pam doesn't even, I mean, I'm sure she doesn't know Sherry's grandma enough to go visit her in the hospital, but she goes and they just sit with the grandma for a while. And so around 9:30, we're back to that whole let's go to this party thing. And this is a party that's taking place at a gravel pit, which I'm not super familiar with. Are you familiar with gravel pit parties?
Not gravel pit parties. I know like I lived near a gravel pit actually.
Oh, you did?
Because I grew up out in the boonies and we would climb the gravel and we probably could have died and like
I was just thinking that.
We would climb it and get to the top and think we were cool. Like the 90s were wild. Okay, like I probably should have died a bunch of times. But
Totally.
Keep in mind, my parents didn't always know we were doing that, but. Anyway, I'd never partied at one, but I do think, and I never did the whole like drinking in a cornfield thing, or even though I was a country kid, I wasn't quite that country, I guess, but that is very much a thing that happens in this part of the country. So, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't go to the cornfield parties either, but I had a sibling that did. So, I mean, they're a real thing. So.
Yeah. Yep.
So they start talking in the book about Old Highway 77 and how it runs parallel to what Interstate 29 does now. And people see the girls take a dead end on the road to the party, but these roads are really hard to navigate, even if you were familiar with them. Because, I mean, you're talking about like the dead of night. You're talking about this old car. Like, I'm sure it can't have high beams like today.
Right.
So,
And they mentioned that since it was an older car, the tire tread wasn't great. It was just kind of the car she was supposed to just cruise to school in. It wasn't supposed to be like an off-roading kind of car, so yeah.
And you can imagine like a 17-year-old girl is probably not treating it great anyway.
I mean, even when I was in high school, there was at least every year one kid rolled their car on a gravel road. At least
true.
one kid every year.
So
because
true.
you think you're what's the word?
Invincible.
Unbreakable or like, yeah, invincible.
Unbreakable,
So.
yeah. Yeah, that is so true. So the girls, they end up driving south on 77, kind of on their way back to Vermillion. And that's when they end up stopping at the Gary Owen Catholic Church in the parking lot because they saw a car there. And there are 3 boys from their school that were at the church to get cups. It's a weird part of this story. And my question is, because it's talking about how they went there because they needed cups for the party and all this stuff. And are they talking about like little itty bitty, like little communion cups? Or like, what are they? Why did this church have disposable cups?
Probably, you never went to like like after a funeral when they'd have the food at the church.
Oh, like the luncheons.
Yeah. So I bet that's probably why they had some disposable stuff there. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's just interesting. It's such an interesting part of the story, but they convinced the guys that they, vaguely know from school. They're like, can you show us where the party is? And the boys were like, sure.
Hey, where the party at?
Yeah, right. And so they follow the boys to the party, but somewhere along the way to the Lyle gravel pits. And this is a party with 100 people at it, but the girls, they never arrive. So that's kind of like the period to what we know happened that night. And so now we're going to flash forward to Sunday morning at 4 a.m. So it's just, overnight. Pam's mom wakes up and her daughter isn't home. The Dakota Hospital starts calling at 7 a.m. Looking for Sherry, who's supposed to be at work. That evening, Pam's parents go to the sheriff's office, and Sherry's mom is actually there. And this is where they tell Sheriff Arnie Nelson, cue villain music. He gets word about these girls being missing. In the book, the author also tells us that Sheriff Arnie Nelson serves until 1980 because he meets the retirement age that's mandatory. And so he'd been a police officer before becoming a bad sheriff and served until he couldn't serve anymore. And, we'll get to know a little bit more about him later, but we do not like Arnie Nelson for a variety of reasons. But his response to the girls being missing is, kids do this all the time. And this sheriff then suggested that they were runaways. The dad of Pam does drive around looking for the girls. And then more than 5 inches of rain starts to fall over the next couple days. So that kind of sets this scene for this cold case starting to get cold. Glenn Olson from the Sioux City Journal on day 4 writes an article about the girls being missing, publishing pictures of Pam and Sherry. And this is when Sheriff Nelson requests assistance. 13 days after the disappearance, the sheriff finally takes some action, putting out basically like a bolo, be on the lookout. 13 days after. 14 days after the disappearance, Sherry's grandma, the one that the girls visited in the hospital, her name is Pearl, she dies. This is where the days start to turn into weeks and months, and there's no sign of the girls. Mark is one of the boys from the church parking lot that are the last to see the girls alive, and he was out of town when this whole girls being missing thing kind of comes to be a thing. And when he gets back into town, he thought that the police would come and interview him, but they do not. Mark, Pat, and Steve, those are the 3 guys that were in the car that night, and none of them were interviewed during those first crucial hours, days, and weeks. And, I'm not a cop, I'm not a sheriff, but that does definitely feel like, maybe, I would love to hear your opinion. I feel like it's step 1 of an investigation.
And we know now, there's a whole show, 48 hours, like the first 48 hours is usually the most important. I wonder if, and I don't know because obviously I wasn't there, but the whole like hippie thing of the 60s and 70s, did a lot of kids from that town just up and leave? Was it a thing that happened a lot because of the whole, like free love kind of whatever? But I feel like in a town like Vermillion, that probably wasn't happening a lot. I'm just guessing, for him to say kids do this, it happens a lot. Like, how many times did it happen before that a kid ran away and came? I'd like to know the actual stat on that,
And I feel like if you're not super busy, couldn't you just vaguely investigate?
Yes. What else was going on at the time? Like a cat in a tree or something?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Just for giggles, why don't we go look for him? Just for an hour.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I'd love to know what other pressing issue was going on those first few days.
Yeah. Well, and months, because it's 2 months into this that Pam's mom ends up writing the Attorney General of South Dakota explaining that she doesn't think that these girls ran away and that, nothing's really happening in this investigation. So here's some reasons that she doesn't think that the girls ran away.
All very valid as well.
Yeah. They didn't take their money. One of them, even we talked about, she left her paycheck on the counter. And if you're a kid running away, what's the first thing you do? Even in a movie, you get your little piggy bank, right? Mm-hmm. Did you ever run away as a kid?
I did not, but not that I remember, but my brother did try and it was hilarious.
Did he take his piggy bank?
I don't think, maybe he had a little Rugrats suitcase that you could pull that he put a few things in, but it was literally like a pair of underwear and like a box of crackers or something. And then I don't remember what he was so mad about, but he was trying to leave. And I don't know how old he was at the time. Couldn't have been more than 10 or anything. But so he got down our gravel road a little bit and we had a dog at the time. So I just let the dog out because I knew the dog would go run to him. And then my brother brought the dog back and was like, I can't take care of a dog. I'm running away. You need to stop doing that. So he brought the dog back and went to leave again, and we just let the dog out again. Like, it was so funny.
So cute. That's adorable. What a sweet story. Does he remember it in fond ways as well?
I think so. I'm pretty sure we've laughed about it now.
I mean, it's always fun when you watch a kid try to run away because, like, their thought process is just so broken.
Yeah. Like, and I wish I could remember what he was mad at. I don't even remember what started the I'm running away. You know, I don't know how it even got to that point, but I remember the Rugrat suitcase.
That's so cute. And was it Boxcar Children? Is that the one where they all run away? Or
I think so. And they solve mysteries and stuff.
Yeah. And then I read one called Dicey's Song that was about these kids that get abandoned. And yeah, it's just fascinating because kids, you know. But so the mono medication Pam had left at home, and her mom really thought that even if she was going to run away, she would take that medicine because she'd been in the hospital for mono. We have Sherry's new bike that wasn't even out of the box. We have the fact that Pam was sewing that outfit for graduation, and so there's just these little pieces, these threads that make it feel like, I don't know, these girls didn't run away. It's enough to, one would say, reasonable doubt. Which is all you need, right?
I'd agree.
So 1 month later, after Pam's mom writes that letter to the Attorney General, it finally gets forwarded to somebody. And then it starts to be worked on, and they are going to have someone start looking for the car. Step one, let's not even look for the girls. Let's just look for the car. Which, great idea. Let's just look.
Could have put an APB out right away, Mr. Sheriff. License plate. Look for.
Yeah. So this is when Special Agent Patterson, he travels to the Vermillion area to visit with the sheriff and the Jackson family. And the sheriff is super dismissive, super annoyed with the state authorities getting involved and stepping on his toes, that he won't even tell this guy where the Jackson family lives. Like, he's just a rude little turd.
Yeah.
If only that was the least of our problems with this sheriff, but it is not. So, close friends and coworkers, they are still not interviewed. And obviously, this is a huge missed opportunity because a lot of this focus is that these girls are runaways. And so, since it's not being investigated, we're losing all of this vital details and information. I don't know where this was, but I watched this like social experiment where they were trying to show how easily influenced people who witness crimes are. So they had this guy that was like a teacher giving a class get mugged in front of people in class. Somebody like just gets up and steals his computer. And the teacher, you know, gives a good reaction and stuff, but then he starts sprinkling in details that are absolutely wrong. And, oh my gosh, did you see that guy? Just his hair was just wild and his nose was just so big and just all these things that were not accurate at all. And so it then made people give false statements. They no longer trusted what they saw with their own eyes. And so the fact that these people weren't interviewed right away, and now there's just all this legend and lore and rumors going around town.
Yeah. And even if they would have been interviewed right away, there's also studies been done that eyewitness testimony isn't even as reliable as once thought. Even those kids in that classroom, if they hadn't dropped little nuggets of other stuff, they probably each would have still given a different account of what happened, or slightly different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just people, we're not as reliable as we think we are sometimes.
Well, totally. And in a situation where, you know, something is happening, like it's, I don't know, even your own memories of things that aren't crimes. I have a different memory of something than a sister of mine.
Right.
It doesn't
or
mean
did you
either
listen
of us are wrong.
Did you listen to Serial, the first or the one
No.
season with the kid? Because it starts with, do you remember what you were doing this day in 1990, whatever? And most of us are like, no. And that's the thing with most of these things. Like, it doesn't become a memorable day until after the big thing happens. So you just thought it was a normal day. So you're not like taking notes of your whole day usually. You know what I mean? It's kind of, and I've always thought, because I do live alone and am really lame and just home by myself most nights, I have no alibi. Like, I really don't.
Right?
Like,
it's true. I guess you could check where my cell phone's pinging, and it's from my couch.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that.
As we will talk about later, there is still a lot of talk going on about this whole thing. So.
Yeah, this runs deep. This runs so deep. So June 3rd of 1971, the book mentions that there are bikers in the area. There are some Hell's Angels. And so then there starts to be rumors about possibly the girls got abducted by Hell's Angels.
I mean, human trafficking is, it's possible, I guess.
Possible. And then also they start talking about there were cults in communes, and you kind of mentioned earlier about this happening in the 1970s. I mean, this plays a part kind of like in the 80s, how there was satanic panic, you know? There was a lot of anxiety around
hippies. Oh, they have long hair, and they smoke that marijuana. Watch out. Like,
oh, gosh. And so this is where I think it's one of the high school friend acquaintances sends a picture of the girls to a psychic. Which, I mean, at least she's trying.
Doing more than the sheriff is doing.
Honestly. So, yeah, it is what it is. So, the first lead in 7 months happens when, in November of 71, this is so weird. In Sioux Falls, there's this concert. It's like a Christian rock concert kind of a thing, or part of a youth group weekend. And the guy from Jesus Christ Superstar is playing, and his name is Chris Brown.
How did I miss that his name was Chris Brown?
His name is Chris Brown.
Not that Chris Brown, obviously. But.
No. So that just gave me the giggles. But somebody develops pictures from that concert, and they are convinced that one of the girls looks like Pam. And so this just kind of starts like a firestorm that really, for some people, see, I told you they ran away.
To a Christian concert. Those rebels.
They really suck at running away.
They went a whole hour-ish north to party with Jesus Christ Superstar.
Chris Brown. So in some ways, this is kind of where the story ends until 2013.
Which is wild, yeah.
But it's not that simple. We're going to continue on this timeline and get into the details that make this disappearance both haunting and controversial. And again, with scars that really run deep. Where we're going to be talking about the girls being lured, abducted, raped, trafficked, real trouble, not just being runaways, that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty that turns into finger pointing and rumors. But these rumors aren't harmless. They aren't simple. They are rumors that turn into legal action. So the Jackson family, they end up not even being able to move from the farm because they are so convinced that Pam's going to come home one day. Mm-hmm. And they want to make sure they're there, which I think is like important to put in there, that this family this entire time is waiting.
I just had a thought, because Pam was from a quote unquote good family, but Sherry was not. Do you think that kind of played into why the sheriff didn't care very much, because that family was kind of known as messy?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And even though it was Pam's mom that sent the letter, there are still times throughout the book where they talk about Sherry's family doing things. I mean, they cared too. Just because it was a messier family doesn't mean they didn't care. And it's always the moms. The moms get crap done, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and especially Sherry's mom, she comes back around in this story for sure, and she's talked about a couple times as being in a bar crying about her missing daughter. And just because she is an alcoholic doesn't mean she doesn't have feelings. It doesn't mean that she doesn't care about her missing daughter. It just means that her coping mechanism is that. So, I mean, and that's, a haunting and awful situation. So you can imagine that it would definitely either propel you to work on yourself or fall deeper into that hole within your heart. So we'll pick this story back up with Al Miller and his wife Marianne. They establish a ministry at the state penitentiary, and it's called Residents Encounter Christ. And we were just talking about, we haven't heard a ton about Sherry's family. Well, this is Sherry's brother. And he would occasionally share with inmates the pain of his missing sister. There would also be a man in this prison. His name was David Lincoln, and he would become a regular attendee at these Residents Encounter Christ weekends. He would go 20 times a year over a 10-year span. So Sherry's mother, she refuses to let a memorial service happen because no body, no service, which I agree with. I mean, there are people, I remember with Elizabeth Smart, like her dad was like this huge, being on every single TV show, making sure she is out there, her name, her image, all that. And her mom did not do that. Her mom decided, I think she's dead and I need to take care of my children that are here, and so there's nothing wrong with what either of those people did. It's just like you decide and then you do that. So I love that her mom was like, we're not doing a memorial service. So on the 20th anniversary, May 29th, 1991, Helen, Sherry's mother, is crying in a bar, and a reporter, Randall Hunhoff, sees her and starts getting this story from people around the bar, kind of asking, what's the deal? Everybody fills in, well, did you know her daughter? And so this is when we're all allowed to get on the I hate Sheriff Arnie Nelson bandwagon. So retired Sheriff Arnie Nelson, in 1988, he's arrested for the rape of a 7-year-old. He is freed from jail 1 year into his sentence. This is important to mention because this guy didn't just fumble the investigation on these girls, but he's also a predator in real life. So I want to make sure that we make that super clear that this is the guy that we're dealing with, and he's just not a good guy. And the only reason this reporter, Randall, gets to talk to him is because the retired sheriff makes him promise or tells him that he can't ask about the fact that he raped a child. So they're only allowed to focus on the fact that he sucked at his job too.
Right.
So.
Jeez.
Just want to make sure we're crystal clear on that before we go further. So this one, the reporter hears that the sheriff finally in 1991 has a more realistic version of what he thinks happened to the girls. Plain and simple, he thinks they accidentally drove into the Missouri River, that they got turned around on the dirt roads. But the Missouri River wasn't by this party. It was, I think they said 20 minutes away. I'm not sure what that would be in miles on a dirt road, but the water was super high, and it was like 40 feet deep and like twice as wide. So, I mean, definitely you could lose a car in that. And, again, to be clear, I don't like this guy. And I also think it's super annoying that he has a way more realistic theory years later, now that he's a useless retired sheriff. And is it possible that he was just so stubborn in 1971? He's one of those guys that if it's not his idea, it sucks and it's not happening. So is it possible like that's why he didn't investigate it with this kind of like open mind back then? Do you have any thoughts on the sheriff?
He's, bad. No, I don't know. And the That's why this whole story does remind me of Making a Murderer a lot too, because in that story as well, a couple of like the lawyers and officials end up having stuff come out years later. It's so similar, but yeah, only a year, huh? Interesting. That's kind of wild, but calling some favors. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And the thing is, though, do they even call them in, or do they just get off? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what freaks me out about this day and age. They just getting off. Like,
yeah.
That's freaky.
Money talks. And not that the sheriff guy probably didn't have that much money, really, but still. Like,
no, but he definitely had clout and stuff. And I mean, to only get a year for, I mean, in the book it says rape. Like, not sexually assaulted, not fondled, not whatever. It's and also 7 years old. That is a child.
Like, that's tough.
Barf. And I mean, I would put money on, I bet it was somebody he knew.
It's like it's usually someone him.
Yeah. And so
and he's the sheriff. Worse. As kids were taught, police are there to help you and like using your influence and all the wrong ways kind of thing. But
that power dynamic stuff is just barfy. Just
barfy. For sure.
But good news, this guy sucked in a lot of different ways. But anyway, so in 1997, 2 detectives used basically a huge metal detector to check old gravel pits for the Studebaker lark. So again, at least there is some form of being interested in this case. And then a new theory, a new trajectory, a huge MacGuffin, and a red herring. Let's get into it. David Lincoln.
Buckle up, kids.
Well, because this is where there's going to be a dichotomy. This is where there's going to be...
He's a terrible person, but he didn't do this terrible thing.
There you go. Thank you. Because it's... Yeah, even Hitler had a girlfriend. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It's hard. People have layers, and... Yeah. So I'll just talk. How about that?
And are you saying his last name as Lincoln, or is it Licken?
That's a good question.
Because it's Lykken, right? I think it's Licken.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I'm definitely going to say it wrong now. Licken.
I'm afraid right? I feel like Kerwin's going to hear this, so I want us to say it correctly. He's still very invested, so I don't know.
Yeah, as well he should be. He should be. Mm-hmm. So
we're on your side, Kerwin. We're on your side.
I watched this thing, and maybe we talked about this before, I don't know, but it was like a Dateline, and this guy did something wrong and was in prison, and his mom and sister had visited him in prison and were coming out, and the family of the person that had been murdered was there and were yelling at the mom and sister of the person that is serving prison time for it. And, the mom's like crying, and the sister just went over to the families. I understand, but I also, hope you guys can understand that this is her son and she loves him, and, he's in prison serving his time, and we are just being his mother and his sister, and I feel that a lot in this story. There are just a lot of things about this that I hope as we talk about it, people can be open to these different ways of how people, again, just have layers, and there's these, hypocrisies in life, and just all these things where you think you know somebody and then maybe you don't, or vice versa, and just all that kind of stuff. Just have an open mind about it. And again, have an open mind to the way of if this was your brother.
Right. If my brother were to do something terrible, I would hope the people around me wouldn't judge me for something my brother did. But also, it would be hard to just totally cut him off, or I don't know. It's tough. It's definitely tough. It's a tough situation.
It's a tough situation. Like you said, a lot of these people are still alive, and they're still dealing with the fallout, the ramifications, the everything from this. So we want to make sure that we are, telling to the best of our ability from reading a book,
Right.
a version of the story, a version of this timeline that just kind of shows, again, how the opinion and rumors is going to play a huge, huge role in where this investigation goes.
Especially in small-ish towns. You know how like Vermillion's not that big, so
1000% small towns put such a magnifying glass on all of this stuff. All of it. I had a friend that she lives in a small town. She started like part-time bartending. She said by the time she got home from her first shift, her husband had already heard a rumor about her having an affair. She's okay. Yeah, I mean, I was working, but yeah, thank you.
word travels fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. Especially rumors and incorrect information that travels real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to try to say David Licken. Does that sound right? Okay.
Yes.
David Licken. All right, and if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, guys. So David Licken, bad guy that did bad things. He got arrested for domestic violence, sexual assault several times. An abusive and dangerous man with a violent pattern of behavior. But did he rape, murder, and hide the bodies of two 17-year-old girls when he himself was 16? That's what this is about. Detectives Ray Hoffman and Larry Gray, when they are investigating the gravel pits for the girls using that like big metal detector, they start to speculate if David Licken was connected to the disappearance because north of Vermillion, off Highway 77, 5 miles from the gravel pits where the party was that night in 1971, was the Licken farm. So in 1871, a family of Norwegian immigrants homesteads a piece of land in Vermillion. Members of this family end up being like in local politics and even state politics, with one of them being a senator that helps secure funding for Mount Rushmore. The Licken family, they are just another farm family with deep roots in South Dakota. This is the stock that he's coming from. This is a pretty basic South Dakota story. We have a ton of immigrants. The Homestead Act got, our little great American melting pot going. And so we have tons of Norwegian Americans, Russian Germans, like we have a ton. Yes. Yes. And so it makes for a really, I just wanted to make sure to put that piece of their family history in here. But back to the 1990s. David Licken was in prison. He was serving some well-earned time, again, for domestic violence, sexual assault, and he was attending Residents Encounter Christ weekend with Al Miller, where he talked about his sister Sherry being missing for 20 years. After Al was done talking, David approaches Al and talks to him about his missing sister. He tells Al an unsettling story about when, I believe it was a brother of his, went to New York. He felt like he saw a girl that looked like his sister, and that she was a prostitute and being like controlled by a pimp. And so it's a disturbing story. And so obviously Al was disturbed by hearing that. So much so that he goes to tell a high school classmate this story. But his high school classmate is actually Detective Larry Gray. So the guy that was just kind of looking for that Studebaker lark with the big old magnet in the gravel pits. That's the guy that Al goes and tells, which is now connecting a dot from David to the missing girls.
Mm-hmm.
Al Miller, he dies of cancer in 2001. And David Licken writes a letter of sympathy to Al's widow. This letter, again, gets really magnified and construed misconstrued. I mean, but you know.
And he had met the wife before, correct? They both
Tons
did
of
this
times.
ministry thing.
Yes.
So I can kind of see in David's mind where I've met her. I just want to say, I'm sorry to hear your husband died, but I'm sure,
he had a lot of time on his hands. He wrote letters
to
to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, they talked about it in the book that he is, like, constantly writing letters. Anything he reads in the newspaper that he feels a connection to. Oh, I went to high school with that person. Oh, that was a waitress at a place that I went to once. You know what I mean? He's writing a letter because he doesn't have anything else going on.
And I think that just goes to show how small of a town or like area this is, that literally all these people are like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon know each other. You know, they all know each other.
That is such a great way to say it. The 6 degrees, for sure. It's that. Yes. Corey used to always say that Sioux Falls is very incestuous. Like, yes, it's just, oh, my dad did this, and that's my cousin's car dealership, and everything's connected. Yeah,
and even more so in Vermillion, where it's even smaller.
Yes, the smaller the town, the more connected everybody is, or you're not once removed. Yeah, it's all direct family tree stuff. So there's a cold case unit that's being formed around this time. The DCI is staffed by volunteers of retired detectives, and this is kind of like a hobby for them. They're not getting paid for it, but they're going to try to solve some of these cold cases. And so in 2004, David Licken becomes a suspect officially in the disappearance of Pam and Sherry, as he and Sherry briefly attended the same school, and he and Pam's church shared a pastor, which is another possible link of how he maybe kind of vaguely knew them. And the farm was within 5 miles of this party, and he told a weird story to Sherry's brother. That is how he gets to be a suspect.
Yeah. So, and if that story is true that the brother saw somebody, I mean, the person at that Christian concert also thought they saw her. So, like, maybe the brother did think he saw her, but yeah, I don't know. It's possible. Or David just made it up for attention. I don't know. You know?
Well, but also, let's say his brother, I mean, it's not that wild to think. I'm trying to think of, if I lived in, Boulder, Colorado, when JonBenet Ramsey was murdered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bet you see kids that look like her all the time because it was on the news a lot, and because it hurt your heart. And so in this case, where you're in a small town, these girls go missing, you are traveling, and you see someone that vaguely looks like a girl that's missing from your hometown. I mean, Natalie Hollowell.
Point too.
That's Natalie Hollowell. That's a good one. People saw her all over the place.
Yes,
and
they did.
Their intent was pure. Some of them, like, people just wanted to help. You know.
Yeah.
But that's not her.
Do you know about the conspiracy theory that Katy Perry is JonBenet Ramsey?
I can see it. Those eyes, man. Those eyes.
But I mean, I don't think it's true, but it's a thing. If you
Google it. Well, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff out there these days. That's like the least concerning. I mean, although then it would be like, who was the dead little girl? Because somebody, I mean, there was a dead little girl. I mean, so that's kind of tricky. So there was a missing guy. I'm going to try to Google it really quick. He went missing in Brian Schaefer. Have you ever heard that story?
That sounds familiar.
Ooh,
what happened to him?
Okay, so he was an Ohio State medical student, and he vanished in the early hours of April 1st in 2006 after entering a bar near campus. Now, there's tons of video footage of this night, and it is wild because it's just, where did he go?
Seen Dateline or something. Like, I feel like I can picture the like dorm CCTV stuff.
Yeah, there's just
but I don't remember
pieces.
Much else about it. I watch so much crap like this.
Well, but with this one, there is a shred of reasonable doubt that he could have just disappeared on purpose, like of his own volition. So tricky.
Yeah.
It's just tricky. It is so tricky. But yeah, and so in that case, in Brian Schaefer's case, the lead detective was at a football game, like a college football game, and he saw Brian Schaefer, and he just running, chasing him down, finally gets to the guy, and the guy turns around and it's Brian's brother.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, so again, you're seeing these people all over the place, and it's not that you're not seeing them, it's just your eyes want it, your heart wants it. Like, so tricky. So in July and in August of 2004, David's sister Susan starts to be interviewed by the police. Now, Susan, she is already, what is that, where you don't talk to your family?
Estranged.
Yes, thank you. So Susan, she's estranged from her family, and she starts being interviewed by the police, and she provides just not a ton of information for them, but it's enough information for them to connect more dots, and because they keep going back to her, and they keep, I guess
leading
my
her.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, they keep leading her to water, and she drinks. Yeah.
And I feel like if she already did, I don't remember, did they go into like why they're estranged or like what happened? I don't totally know, but I feel like that's already kind of a red flag. Is this just revenge, or what is this? Is this, I don't know, but.
And she seems delicate to me. Like a person that I don't think people should be pushing her for information.
Mm-hmm. She almost seems like a people pleaser. Like she knows they want something from her, so she just keeps saying stuff. Like, or maybe it's almost like a version of Munchausen's where she's getting attention, and so I don't know, because she says a lot of stuff that is not true.
But the way that they get it out of her is also, I would say, not like how they would do it now.
Yeah,
like it
pretty
feels
sketchy. Yeah,
wrong. Yeah. So, but they're able, from talking to the sister several times, they're able to get her to say things in such a way to let them get a search warrant for the Licken farm. Detectives visit David in prison now. Basically, they want to just get a confession, tie this thing up before they go to the farm, dig it up, find the girls. So they're giving David a chance to kind of like confess. And David said, I had nothing to do with the disappearance, and I am willing to take a lie detector. I don't know what you guys are talking about. They ask him point blank, is anybody buried on the farm? And he said nobody is buried on the farm. So August 24th, 2004, the Licken farm is searched for the first time. They're going to dig up the property, including a flower garden. Nothing of note is found.
And isn't part of the asking about the body buried, it's because the sister says she remembers a fight like between her brothers where she heard him say someone was mad about burying a body somewhere or something, right? Is that where that came from? Yeah, okay.
Yes. All these things are coming from the sister, but it's just really hard to say that any of these are actual thoughts that she had without an outside source pressuring her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she said it with her mouth, but I'm not sure if she would agree to that.
The power of suggestion kind of thing.
Definitely. So when they dig up the property, again, they don't find anything, but this is where publicity starts to sway everything, and the court of public opinion is now in session. They publicize that bones and pieces of bone fragments, articles of clothing, newspaper clippings were all listed as items found in the search. And when you say stuff like that, it kind of makes you feel like, oh my God, like that sounds so, they found evidence of an awful crime. But even though that was what was published in the newspaper, the police knew within, I think, 2 weeks that the bones were not human. They're all chickens and cows and, farm stuff. So this is kind of like a really good example of people just believing something that they read without looking into it any further. People saw the newspaper, said, oh, they found bones on the farm. I can't believe they buried those girls out on the farm. It's like, well, no, that's not what they said. But so again, this is the first time that the farm gets searched and nothing is found. There's going to be other times, and these searches, I think it was the thing that like was annoying was, and I'm sure it just happens all the time, is that they search and then they just walk away. They don't care, like it's up to you to put it all back. But they're talking about the mom was like, what, 85 or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they dug up her flower garden and they didn't put it back.
Well, and
So
she wasn't
sad.
while they're searching, I don't think they were allowed to be there either. So she was basically like kicked out of her house for a couple days, and she had a pregnant cat or something, right? She was worried about her cat
Something like that.
the whole
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
And yeah, I mean, you're 80 something, and I'm sure they were badgering her because wasn't part of it that the family helped David, like everybody's covering for him. Tell us what you know, and she's, I'm just worried about my pregnant cat. I don't know what you want from me. But
yeah, I know nothing. I've told you that. So
yeah.
And isn't that scary too? I think that's just scary to think that people would be badgering you for information you don't have, and you've told them that, and then they keep badgering you.
And that's why I mean, this is unrelated but related, and that's why I don't really think torturing people for information works, because people just tell you something because they want you to stop hurting them. It doesn't mean it's true. That's
totally.
That's a whole other podcast, really. But anyway. But no, I did feel bad for the mom, of course. And what month was this? It was summer, right? It was like hot.
Yes, August.
Yeah.
August of 2004. Yeah, that's because remember the brother, he wanted to take a shower before they took him in for questioning.
Because he was like working on the farm, and then they just show up and tear everything apart. And it's one thing when I've seen search warrants in houses where sure they pull all the drawers out and it's a lot of cleanup, but they literally dug up their property. That's hard to put back. It's not like just refolding your clothes or something. Like it's the whole property basically. It's just kind of crazy, but
yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Like right now, it kind of looks like somebody ransacked my place, but it's just because I haven't cleaned up.
Yeah,
but it would take, it would take what, half an hour to clean it up. But yeah, when you're talking about they sifted through tons of dirt, like literally, because they thought that there were dead bodies there or a whole car, and they didn't find evidence of any of that.
And even being out on a farm 5 miles out of town or whatever, if someone was burying a Studebaker, that's a little harder to hide even out on a farm. I feel like someone would be like, what's that big mound of dirt over there? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just,
it'd be hard to bury. Like, how long do you think that would take to even dig the hole? That's not like I feel like that'd take a weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
and
so
I guess I don't know what kind of farm equipment they had. Maybe they had a backhoe or something, but still someone's going to notice that there's a big old new hole in your yard or whatever, I don't know.
Oh, totally. I completely agree. So yeah, this first search is, kind of feels again like as you're reading the book, it kind of even feels like a violation. And at this time in the book, you don't even know what's happening. You don't know. If you don't know the end result of this and you're reading this book without that knowledge, it still felt like a violation, at least in my opinion, where it's just like, ooh, I don't know if they had enough evidence to do that.
So what do you think so far? Do you think they had enough evidence to do that? Do ya? There's so much more to come on part 2 of this Vanished in Vermillion episode with Local Lou. And that will be coming up in 2 weeks. And don't forget that on April 24th, I will be moderating the author talk with Lou Ragoose, and we'll be talking about Vanished in Vermillion. So make sure you check that out. I'll have it linked on my socials, and it's on the Siouxland Library's website if you want to check that out. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. And of course, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, share, like, comment. Because if you're liking the episode, you should probably let everybody know, right? Plus, it helps a sister out. You can listen to Talking with Tasha on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, and at talkingwithtasha.com. You can email me at talkingwithtashapod@gmail.com. I'm also on Cameo and Fiverr. It's all linked on my website and on my social media through my link tree. If you want to get a hold of me, it's all right there at talkingwithtasha.com and on my socials. Once again, thank you so much for listening for 60 episodes. Here's to 60 more. Cheers! I think there's only one thing left for us to do. Say it with me. Be safe, make good choices, wash your hands, just try to be a good person, stay hydrated, and peace out, Brussels sprout. Bye!